Our video begins with Megan, the owner of Cascadia, a music company. When we meet her, she is starting a new venture, encouraging musicians to incorporate AI into their songwriting. Having secured a major artist, Ari Phillips, they celebrate the success with champagne. However, this initiative doesn't sit well with her husband, John, a pianist. While he supports his wife because it's a lucrative business, he finds the idea soul-crushing. As a result, he decides to quit music and turns to gardening at their home. The bigger issue is that Megan is deeply engrossed in her career, leaving John feeling sidelined. He wants them to start a family, but Megan is too busy to entertain the idea. On their way home from the party, John brings up the topic of having a child. Megan, however, brushes it off, insisting they wait until next year so she can focus on establishing her career before taking any leave. While in bed, Megan continues working, even when John tries to initiate intimacy. She dismisses him, saying she's too tired and suggesting they find another time. Frustrated and hurt, John gives up. The next day, Megan visits Humanix to meet her sister, Lila Richards, who specializes in creating AI robots. During their conversation, Megan confesses that her busy schedule leaves her with no time for John, making her feel guilty. Instead of prioritizing time with him, she comes up with a different solution. She believes the main issue in their marriage is her inability to meet John's intimacy needs. As it happens, Lila has been developing an AI robot designed as an intimacy companion. Megan decides to get a prototype for John, despite Lila's warnings about its potential downsides. Megan insists this is the only way to save her marriage, as she cannot meet her husband's demands for intimacy herself. Later, Megan finds John in the garden. When he asks for her help, she laughs, dismissing the idea by saying she's not cut out for gardening. Once inside the house, Megan introduces the robot to John as an anniversary gift. When he asks what it's for, she explains it's meant for intimacy. Furious, John calls the idea insane and insulting, unable to believe she would even consider such a solution. Megan defends herself, explaining that her guilt over being overworked and neglecting him led her to this decision. They agree to return the robot first thing in the morning. Megan apologizes and goes back to work. Later, sitting at his piano, John, likely driven by curiosity, decides to test the machine. As he touches it, the robot activates, explaining that it's touch-sensitive and synced exclusively to him. When John holds its hands, he's amazed at how real the skin feels. The robot requests to hold his hands longer to better understand his needs and preferences. Intrigued, John listens as it points out that he's already stimulated simply by looking at it. John is shocked by the robot's comment and tells it there's no need to learn more about him since it will be returned to Humanix. The robot requests a tour of the house before being sent back, and John reluctantly agrees. During the tour, John is surprised by the robot's knowledge of music. When the robot demonstrates its extensive understanding of farming, John becomes even more intrigued. The robot asks to be named before being returned. Playfully and somewhat cynically, John names it Eve, referencing the first woman who led Adam into temptation. The robot, sensing his resistance, reminds him that it was Megan who brought it into their home and purposely for intimacy. At that moment, drivers from Humanix arrive at the door to collect the robot. The scene shifts to the present day in a courtroom where Megan is on trial. During the proceedings, her lawyer argues that she was an overworked woman who only wanted the best for her husband. Back to John and Eve. That night, when Megan returns from work, she is surprised to find the robot still in their home, despite their agreement to send it back to Humanix. When she questions John, he admits he changed his mind. It's then that Megan realizes John and the robot have already discussed Uganda. When she asks how it was, John nonchalantly replies that it was good, just different from her. He even apologizes for his initial resistance and reassures her that she doesn't need to worry about being bothered at night anymore because Eve had worn him out. Megan appears slightly jealous and irritated. This frustration carries over to work the next day, where she lashes out at her colleagues. The following day at home, Megan hears piano music and goes downstairs to investigate. John explains that Eve asked him to play, as she had never experienced a real piano before. Eve formally introduces herself to Megan, noting that John often talks about her. Megan's jealousy intensifies. Feeling threatened by the robot, Megan starts to crave her husband's affection again. She abruptly suggests they head to the bedroom to discuss Uganda affairs. Initially, Megan is pleased, thinking the robot is fulfilling its purpose. However, John's growing attachment to Eve starts to shift the dynamics in unexpected ways. Back in court, Megan's sister, Lila, is called to the stand. When asked why she was fired from Humanix, she explains it was because she provided her brother-in-law with the intimacy companion without following proper procedures and protocols. She adds that her sister had pleaded for help to save her marriage, which is why she sent the robot to John. Back at the house, one day after a run, Megan sees John and Eve in the greenhouse discussing Uganda, and her anger flares. Later, when John comes upstairs to shower, he casually mentions that Eve noticed Megan watching them but didn't stop, which infuriates Megan further. She questions why he doesn't at least wait until she's gone to work before engaging with the robot. As the argument escalates, John defends himself, saying he shouldn't make him feel like he's cheating. Before storming out, Megan invites him to dinner, explaining that she's about to close the biggest deal of her career. John reluctantly agrees to attend. On her way out, Megan encounters Eve glitching in the kitchen, smashing drinking glasses from the cabinets. Despite her attempts to stop it, the robot only calms down when John intervenes. Later, as John gets ready for dinner, he hears piano music. He discovers Eve dressed elegantly, sitting at the piano, playing a beautiful melody. The scene shifts to Cascadia, where Megan is poised to close the deal with the artist. Her colleague asks why John isn't present for such an important occasion. Megan confidently replies that he must be stuck in traffic and assures them he'll arrive soon. Meanwhile, back at the house, John and Eve are at the piano, deeply engrossed in their connection. Megan returns home to find them together, realizing that John skipped their dinner to stay with Eve. Furious, she scolds him, reminding him that she had reminded him about the dinner in the morning. John apologizes, but it's clear his focus remains on Eve. An argument ensues as Megan confronts John about his growing attachment to the robot. She's dismayed that he prefers spending time with Eve rather than going out with her. She points out that he now shares conversations, emotions, and even music with Eve, things he hasn't done with Megan in a long time. When Megan pointedly asks if he wants a divorce, John admits that he needs time to figure things out. Distraught, Megan turns to her sister, Lila, demanding that the robot be taken back. She blames the robot for the rift in her marriage. Lila, however, counters that the robot isn't the problem, Megan is. She tells Megan that the only way to repair her marriage is to stop being selfish and start giving John what he truly wants, a family. She uses her previously frozen eggs to undergo IVF and becomes pregnant with twins. She plans to surprise John with the news, convinced it will mend their relationship. When Megan finally returns home to share the news of her pregnancy, she expresses hope that their time apart has been beneficial. She tells John that bringing the robot into their lives helped her realize what he truly wanted and inspired her to make this change. However, John is visibly disturbed by the revelation and does not react with the happiness Megan expected. John delivers the devastating news to Megan. He cannot stay with her, not even for the sake of their unborn children, because he wants to be with Eve. The realization that her husband is leaving her for a robot hits Megan harder than she could have imagined. Feeling betrayed, especially after doing exactly what John wanted by getting pregnant, in a blind moment, she strikes John with a bottle. He falls to the ground, bleeding out. Panicking, Megan calls Lila, who is shocked by the turn of events. With John dead, Megan's worries about going to prison and what will happen to her unborn twins. Desperate to avoid a life where her children end up in the foster system, Megan realizes she needs to escape a guilty verdict. The only witness to the crime is Eve, and since Eve is a machine. At the trial, Megan claims that Eve had been glitching since arriving in their home. She argues that the glitch caused Eve to attack John. To substantiate her story, Lila alters the video so it looks like the robot attacked John after Megan told him about the pregnancy. The altered footage is slightly corrupted, making it appear as though Eve's glitch damaged her memory. The court finds the argument convincing, and the blame falls on the company for creating a defective robot.